Okay, this is Mike Franklin. I'm the owner of this 1962 Piper Colt PA 22108. Has a little Lycoming 115 horsepower motor, and I'm going to review the engine logs today. So this is the homepage of PiperColtForSale.com. You click on logs, and here is the log data. So what I'm going to do today, previously I had reviewed the current logs from the time that I purchased it in March 2018 until now. In this video, I'm going to review the airframe log from 1981 to 2018 and the engine log from 1981 to 2018. I'm going to review some of the work that was done in those log books. There's a lot of things in there that are redundant, and I won't bother to talk about those because there's a lot of entries that pertain to replacement of tires, that I've replaced recently, so we don't need to discuss that. Brake work that was done that I've replaced all the brake work, so we don't need to talk about that. There was work on the on the struts. I've replaced the struts, so we don't need to talk about that stuff because it's all been redone. Anything that's already been redone, I'm just going to skip over because a lot of these things have been replaced, and what they did then won't be relevant because it was all taken out and redone. So we're going to skip over those parts to try to keep this to a reasonable period of time. What I'm going to review is, the major overhaul that was done, and the coverings that were done, fabric coverings, and some of the other features that were added to it in the course of this time frame. And so we'll start with the engine log of. So you click here. So and by the way, this is a link to the some documentation of the engine overhaul, which is very relevant. And I'd done a previous video on the condition of the fabric, and you can see that video. But this one is basically about these logs, but also the engine overhaul. So let's look at the engine log from 81 to 2018, and it starts, we'll go backwards in time. These things were done by me, so we've already reviewed that in another video. So let's go back to, this is still me. Okay, so this is done by the previous owner in 2017. Did the annual and, changed the oil, did the compression check, rotated the plugs, all that kind of stuff. They're using 2050 oil in there. So that's normal stuff. But what isn't normal is replaced the starter. And let's see, just lube things and everything. So it's a SkyTech whatever. So that was done in June of 2017. Regular oil change. And oops, this is a repeat of the previous one. Again, sorry about that. Duplicate. Okay, this is 2016. Regular oil change and compression tests. Nothing there. Okay, same thing here. Okay, just engine oil. Okay, here's 2015. Regular oil change, fabric test. Clean battery box. Don't need to talk about the battery box as I replaced the new ship battery, so that's all been redone. And I put a battery tender on there, and that was discussed in another video. And that's it. Let's take a look at 2014. So oil change, compression check. That's it in 2014. And again, that's a duplicate. Again, sorry about that. I don't know how that happened. 2013, just an oil change. Let's see, no leaks, just an oil change. And that's it. Okay, so that's it for that, and that's another duplicate. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's it for that, for the most recent owner, the people that I bought it from as far as the engine is concerned. Okay, so what you'll notice is there were no annuals between 2003 and 2013, and only 2631, only 10 hours transpired. And so here's my understanding of what went on. In 1997, a retired Air Force guy purchased the airplane, and he did a major overhaul on the motor. But he only put 52 hours on it, mostly in the first couple of years. And apparently he got sick, and so he only put 52 hours on it in the course of 15 years. And then the next people whom I bought it from put 300 hours on it, and I've put about 170 hours on it. So what you'll see, let's take a look what they've done here. Just a regular oil check and compression. Did some muffler work, ignition timing, and that's it for 2003. Then you'll notice there wasn't one until 1999, so there was another gap, and they only put 20 hours on it here. But what you'll see here is here they put in 80 weight oil, which is kind of different. But here they put in 40 weight mineral oil, which is a break-in oil because the motor's rebuilt. Compression check, airworthy directive for the crankshaft. Let's see, bracket air filter, and that's it. Okay, and that's 1999. And again, it's a duplicate. Yeah. Okay. Same thing. Okay, here's where the overhaul took place. They started, August 25th, 1997. So it was done at 2588. We now have 3089. So it's been almost exactly 500 hours since the major overhaul. I put 170 on it. The previous guys put 300, and the rest were put on by the person who did this, who had this work done. And let's see, Columbia, done by Columbia Aircraft. Cylinders overhauled by Century. Final assemblance. Here's the compression check. Mineral oil. Airworthy directive for oil pump and fuel pump. And then it was good. So, and again, that's a duplicate. Okay, and so this goes back to a previous owner, which is kind of weird because the compression test is about the same before as after. But anyway, I'm going to skip and show you something else. I'm going to go back to the web page, and so I'm going to finish this off. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to finish off the rest of this. But what I'm going to do is when I'm done, I'm going to show you some documentation I have for the overhaul, so you know where to find it. Okay, so this is the previous owner. Just a regular oil check. Just a regular compression check and oil change. Let's see, installed new mag coil. Both mags, let's see. Okay, here's 93. Filter, aerial shell. Just the oil change. and you know, these are just all oil changes. So this will go back right down to back to 81. It's all standard oil change stuff, and you can peruse these yourself. I don't want to keep spending a lot of time on it because that's all that there is in there that's relevant. You know, basically it's an engine log and the engine was rebuilt, and so all this stuff really isn't relevant since the rebuild. But we'll just keep going. Refit. These are just regular oil changes and compression checks going all the way back to 1981. So there's nothing more to see in the engine log going back to 81, and that's it. Okay, so we're done there. But that engine overhaul, I've got a lot of documentation here that you can take a look at, and it might be more meaningful to you than it is to me because it's a lot of technical jargon. Let me just zoom this down a little bit. Okay, and so it's a 0235C1B, and it talks about the crankshaft and the bearings and the bushings and all that kind of stuff, and you can review all this documentation, and see if it's meaningful to you. And some pretty interesting information that would be useful to someone who's familiar with engine builds. These are like the quality control sheets from the rebuild factory. In fact, there's more of them that they look just like this, but the numbers, there's like one that's 189 and 188 and 187, and I believe it means it's for each individual cylinder in the motor, but all the information is the same except for that number right there. So I didn't take pictures of all of them because there's a bunch of them. But anyway, I have all that stuff. And so you can peruse these at your leisure, and you can see who did the work and what they did. And here's some notes that the owner and his wife about the monies that were paid. It appears as though he paid $8,000 for this rebuild back in 1998. And there's a bunch of invoices for payments on account and all that kind of stuff. And what do I have here is some documentation for the Seekonite. And so it's there's some official documentation to demonstrate that the Seekonite was done under whatever. So then that information's there. So you can peruse that at your leisure. And so that's the engine log and the information that pertains to the engine itself. Let's go to the airframe log. And again, this is stuff that I'd done, and that was in the previous video. So let's start where the previous owners had it. Okay, which is right here. Okay. Let's see. Like I said, I'm not going to go into talking about the battery because it's been replaced. We're not going to talk about the, even the muffler because we've redone that. But here's where the starter was done in 2017. So it's got a new starter as of 2017. Okay, 2016. Let's see. Again, I'm going to only mention things that are relevant because a lot of this stuff has been replaced by me. Breaking, okay, nothing there. Again, sorry for the repeats. Okay. Okay, the brakes have all been replaced. Oh, he replaced rudder cables. This is 2014. He did the carb heat scat hoses, a mixture control cable and knob. He redid the bungees, which is good. 2014, so those are 8 years old. Bungees can, are for the landing gear, and they can become, dry rotted. So you need to keep an eye on those. Or if they're getting beaten upon, they could conceivably snap. But I think that the thing's been, it hasn't had that kind of abuse. It hasn't been used in the grass and things like that, rough terrain. Let's see. He replaced the compass in 2013. He replaced the tachometer in 2013. That's relevant. He replaced the push-to-talk things for the intercom. Replaced the carb heat knob and cable. Power control cable. Drained. And let's see, light and airspeed. Installed a new lighted airspeed indicator. Was it new? Installed new UMA PMA lighted airspeed with factory range markings applied. Exhaust free flying. Okay. Okay. Bearings. Replace a generator belt. We've replaced a lot of avionics with lower power consuming stuff and replaced all the lighting with LED. So there's less taxation on the electrical system. But if the generator ever fails, we'd be replacing it with an alternator. But things working fine. So let's see. He had put in a new battery in 2013. I replaced it in 2019. I think it was 2019. Could have been 2020. I'm not sure. I replaced all the tires, so that's not relevant. They didn't work on the struts. That's not relevant because I replaced them with sealed struts. Exhaust isn't relevant. Okay. And we're back to 1999, by the way. So we're to the previous owner. Battery. Did some work on the ailerons. Did work on the fuel selector valve. Let's see. Okay, that's it there. Brake booster, it's not relevant because we rebuilt all the brakes. Okay, 97. So we're back to when the engine thing was done. ELT is not relevant because I've replaced the ELT. Exhaust is irrelevant because we replaced all that. Bendix, fabric tested, engine overhaul, blah, blah, blah. We've gone through all of that. Okay, this is the previous owner to the guy who did the major overhaul. Let's see. Most of the stuff is going to be irrelevant because we've replaced it all. Vacuum pump. I replaced the vacuum pump. We don't need to worry about that. Let's see. All right. We're back to 93. Let's see. Clean the drain and rudder. Crack it center. Muffler. We replaced the muffler. It's not relevant. Transponder's not relevant. 350 encoder for we replaced the transponder and all that, so that's not relevant. We now have a MODES, ADSB. Removed aircraft wings and tail surfaces and sanded and repainted, rejuvenated and repainted. That's in 93. Installed and tail surfaces sanded. Okay, well that's relevant. Removed aircraft wings and tail surfaces sanded, rejuvenated, repainted, because the Seconite was put on in 1981. Installed. Okay, yeah. Okay, so that was 93. They did some work on those surfaces. Lower elevator arm. Installed some stuff on an elevator. Not certain what that says. ELT's not relevant. Okay, that's it. Magneto's not relevant anymore. Okay, we're back to 89. Nothing there, nothing there, nothing there, nothing there that's relevant. Okay. Nothing relevant. We're down to 84. Nothing relevant. Nothing relevant. Okay, 81. Completed annual inspection, recovered complete aircraft of Seconite C337 this date. It's all new brake lining. So that's the entire aircraft plane was redone in Seconite at this time, and so that's really what's relevant. So the airplane covering was addressed in 1981 and 1993. Okay. And that's it. So that's the logs from 81. So I mean, the two major things are the motor and the covering. And the covering was done in 81. It's Seconite. It's designed for the duration of the airplane. They did sand it and repaint it in 93. And the previous owners put a new starter, bungees, tachometer, that kind of stuff, and of course the engine rebuild, and so that covers those logs, I think, pretty thoroughly. You can peruse them, and you can see the overhaul details here, and read some of what was done there. And this is the latest oil analysis, and these are all the invoices of all the work that I've done since I bought it in March 2018. And so I think that's pretty comprehensive. This is Mike Franklin, owner of this 1962 Piper Colt PA 22108, 115 horsepower, Lycoming. PiperColtForSale.com. You can reach me, Mike Franklin, 315-876-2262. Thanks.